In a world that feels like it's constantly searching for real, genuine leadership, where do you even look for examples of true character and conviction? Well, today, we're going to dive into the stories of two historical figures who, believe it or not, give us a pretty powerful blueprint.
Wow, that quote just kind of hits you, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of this deep, universal need for people with just unshakable integrity. I mean, that's a high bar, and it's one that seems to be getting harder and harder to clear these days.
So, that's the big question, right? In a world that's full of flawed leaders, where do we turn for our role models? Well, the answer might just be hiding in an ancient story about two guys who stared fear right in the face and chose faith instead. Let's dig into the first of these incredible figures.
Okay, so our first giant of faith is a man named Caleb, and his defining moment, the one that really sealed his legacy, came when he and 11 other spies were sent to check out the Promised Land. What they brought back? Well, it was going to change everything for their entire nation.
So get this, 10 of the spies come back, and their report is just dripping with fear. All they can see are giants, massive fortified cities, and how small and weak they are in comparison. But then you have Caleb and Joshua. They saw the exact same things, the same reality, but they delivered a completely different report. Theirs was all about faith, and they absolutely refused to back down to peer pressure, even when the rest of the people were so angry they were threatening to stone them. That's conviction.
And here's where it gets really fascinating. Caleb's name itself gives us a huge clue about his character. In ancient Hebrew, Caleb means dog. Now today, that might not sound like much of a compliment, right? But for Caleb, it was perfect. It captured his defining trait, this intense, unwavering loyalty, like a faithful dog, to his beliefs and to his God.
This one phrase, this is basically the summary of Caleb's entire life. It shows up again and again to describe him. But what does that even mean, really? To wholly follow someone or something?
Well, it means total, complete dedication. Think of it this way. It's a life with zero skeletons in the closet. There are no hidden rooms, no locked-off parts of your life that you keep separate from your core beliefs. For Caleb, everything, every single part of his life was open and completely committed to God.
All right, so that's Caleb. Now let's pivot to our second example, Joshua. And while he was this famous, incredible military leader, his most amazing display of character didn't even happen on a battlefield. No, it happened after all the wars were over.
This is where you really see what he was made of. As the leader of the whole nation, Joshua was in charge of handing out the land they had conquered. He absolutely could have taken the best plot for himself right at the beginning. I mean, who would have stopped him? But instead, he waited. He made sure every single tribe, every single family had their home before he even thought about his own. He took his share dead last.
But hold on, it gets even better. The piece of land he finally chose was called Timnath-Serah. You know what that means? It literally translates to the leftover portion. So he didn't just take his share last. He willingly took the leftovers, a piece of land that was probably in ruins and that he had to rebuild himself, from scratch.
I mean, that just creates such a powerful contrast, doesn't it? We kind of expect leaders to feel entitled, to take the first and the best for themselves. But Joshua just completely flips that script. He shows us a model of leadership that's not about personal gain, but about service and genuinely caring for the well-being of others.
So when you look at these two men, Caleb and Joshua, you realize their incredible character wasn't some kind of accident. It was forged. It was built, choice by choice, in the moments they decided to see possibilities instead of problems, and to serve instead of being served.
So if we boil their stories down, what do we get? We get these four core virtues. Caleb gave us this blueprint for courageous conviction and unwavering faith. And Joshua modeled what humble leadership and dedicated service look like. You put them together and you get a pretty complete picture of what real integrity is.
So the big question is, how do we get more of that in our own lives? Well, the principle is actually pretty simple. We are changed by what we focus on, by what we contemplate. When we study and really think about these great examples of character, we start to imitate them, their faith, their way of life. It starts to rub off on us. So in the end, the stories of Joshua and Caleb, they aren't just ancient history. They're an invitation. They challenge every one of us to take a hard look at the foundation we're building our own lives on. And they leave us with one very powerful question. What example will you be?